de último momento, The Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal, repito, ha confirmado que la munición lanzada contra el hospital Bautista, allí en el centro de la Franja de Gaza, es de producción del país del norte. Nada más y nada menos que una ojiva Jidam. Estas ojivas Jidam tienen la potencia de 150, 250, 500, 1000, 1500 y hasta 2500 de explosivo, de capacidad de destrucción. No sabemos aquí, no dice los detalles, pero dice que el modelo de esta munición era un MK-84 de fabricación gringa. Pero no solamente ello, amigos de Sin Mentiras, porque hay que recordar que hasta los momentos trataron de enmascarar que la munición fue producto de los combatientes, y eso fue respaldado incluso por el país de las hamburguesas 24 horas después de la explosión, que hay que recordar dejó más de 800 fallecidos, la mayoría de ellos infantes. Hay que recordar eso. Y también hay que decir efectivamente que lo que se sabe, todo prácticamente lo que se sabe apunta a que el gobierno, el régimen de Netanyahu estuvo y fue quien lanzó esta munición. Es decir, se hicieron varias comparaciones en las cuales en esa comparación se observó cómo el impacto tan grande de esa munición es muy parecido a esta de la Jidam. Igualmente se impactó en el centro del hospital, lo que se deduce que era un objetivo bien calculado, bien planificado, y estas Jidam tienen una configuración de espoleta de mucha proximidad que pues los hace evidente pues ante este tipo de explosión y de ruido, con lo cual no solamente lo que confirma el The Wall Street Journal, sino también las diferentes evidencias que hay en las redes sociales y distintos especialistas dan como hecho que fue el régimen quien ubicó y mandó esa munición a estallar, dejando una cantidad enorme de víctimas en el hospital Bautista de Gaza. Esto ya a consideración de que trataron de esconderlo, pero ya ha salido suficiente evidencia que demuestra claramente quiénes están involucrados en este asunto.
Through his basically his spokesperson, through his mouthpiece, calling on Israel to show all of us the proof that you say you have that shows that you didn't carry out an attack on a hospital in Gaza. And you say you have the proof. President Biden was there during the press conference saying he's seen the satellite images, or we have the satellite images that show the proof is here. Great. So Vladimir Putin's saying, well, then show it to us. You have this proof. Please show us the unedited satellite imagery that shows that there was no bombing by Israel on a hospital. World War III watch. It's like a crock pot of war rhetoric right now, all thrown into one big pot. Just a few minutes ago, Chinese President Xi Jinping threw his support behind Russian President Vladimir Putin and the security of the Russian state, military security for Russia. A congressional report out this morning warning that a war with Russia and China is on the horizon, and the U.S. should be prepared. Of course, we covered last night, U.S. Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Mike McCall authorizing President Biden to use force in a war against Iran. The Biden regime has also discussed using military force if Lebanon-based Hezbollah attacks Israel with rockets. All of these things unfolding in a World War III watch right now. We figured we'd bring in former UN weapons inspector, former U.S. Marine Scott Ritter, whose analysis on geopolitics and everything going on with these strategic war rhetoric right now is so important. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
So I guess maybe we start with just a few minutes ago, Xi Jinping throwing security support behind Russia. And what does this mean with this new congressional report warning that Russia and China, a war with both of those countries simultaneously, is on the horizon?
Well, first of all, let's talk about what Xi Jinping has done. China and Russia, of course, have a relationship that's that's superior to any treaty relationship. It's a relationship without any boundaries. This is what they've been saying. But there's been some boundaries. I mean, China has been a little bit reticent about Russia's military incursion into Ukraine. It violates China's Westphalian principles of sovereignty and things of that nature. But I think China has been compelled to reassess its posture, not by Russia's actions, but by the collective West's actions. That China now recognizes that this struggle between Russia in Ukraine isn't about Russia against Ukraine. It's about Russia against the collective West, against NATO, against the United States. And then China has to evaluate the rhetoric and the actions that have been coming out of the United States, its European allies, its Asian allies, in regard to China, the strangulation of China that they're trying to do economically and geopolitically. And China, I think, has realized that the best way to protect China is to align China militarily, from a security standpoint, with the other nation that is lined up against the same enemy set that China's facing, and that's Russia. And this is a huge deal because it's not that China's military is going to be coming over the borders. I mean, I think you'll see some Chinese assistance from a material standpoint. You'll see some of this. You'll see closer cooperation between Russia and China. It won't be a one-way street. Russia has some technology it can offer China that will be devastating to America if China ever incorporates it. But more importantly, it's about the fact that Russia is no longer alone. That China now has says we support what you're doing. We're on your side. We're on Team Putin when it comes to Ukraine, when it comes to the world, the global position. This is bad news for those in the United States who are trying to resurrect Cold War fantasies of being able to wage and win two wars simultaneously. You know, back when I was in the Marine Corps, we actually had a posture of fighting 2.5 wars. The way the United States was configured militarily, we could fight a war in Europe using NATO and defeat the Soviet Union. At the same time, we could fight a major war in the Pacific, probably North Korea, and defeat the North Korean Chinese threat, and still have sufficient force to engage in a smaller war, say in the Middle East, where we would fight a holding action until we won one of the two major wars and diverted the resources in to win the half war. And we had the forces to do that. We trained to do it. We were ready to do it. And thank God we never had to do it, but I think we could have done it. Today, we went from 2.5 to 2 wars. Today, we're down to literally 1 war, and we can't even do 1 war. Let's be honest. If we went to war right now in Europe against Russia, we don't have sufficient military force to prevail. We can fight a war. We can't win a war. If we went to war against China, we could fight a war, but we can't win it. And that's even if we bring the totality of our conventional strength into play. And now we're talking about doing it against both Russia and China. The costs that are going to be associated with this are phenomenal. First of all, it's going to require a massive expansion of our conventional military power. Back to you when this war is done. We don't want to occupy Ukraine, but we have to maintain this so that we protect our defensive positions in Lugansk, south of that. But they didn't go on the offensive there for the longest time. They have now. What does that mean? See, some people don't understand that when the Russians make a decision to go on the offensive on Ukrainian soil, it means they're now going to own that soil. They're never giving it back. Kharkov is goodbye. Russia will take Kharkov now. And once Russia gobbles up Kharkov, they're going to gobble up everything else. Ukraine just made a fatal mistake and they don't even know it. I mean, Zelensky, if you're watching, please listen to me. You just lost Kharkov. You just lost Kharkov. If you continue, you will lose Dnipropetrovsk. If you continue, you will lose Mykolaiv. You will lose Odessa. It's over. Save your country. Stop the fighting. But they don't get it. And nobody in the West gets it either. When I say this to Western analysts, they go, Scott, that's just Russian propaganda. Oh, no, it's real. It's what the Russians do.
Understand that. So now Ukraine has basically turned into what we all thought it would become, which is basically an aircraft carrier for NATO. I suppose that's the future of what the rest of Ukraine will look like. Is that what we're going to see in Israel now, that this will be a staging ground for this larger regional Middle East war right now? I mean, when Biden leaves, of course, the rumblings are nothing's going to happen, no major offensive is going to happen till President Biden leaves Israel, and then all hell is going to break loose. How do you see this unfolding over the next 24, 48 hours?
Look, the Israelis right now are scared to death. Scared to death. They mobilized 360,000 reservists. Let's just put this in perspective. The vast majority of these people did their 2.5 years military service. The Israeli army is not very good. They have some units that are very capable, some of their special forces units, some of their specialized units. They have some technical units that are very good, but the mainstay, the infantry units, the armor units, they're not very good. And they have become even less good by being pulled back from conventional combat duties to policing duties in the West Bank. So most of these reservists spent their time walking the streets in the West Bank, learning how to break the arms of 10-year-old children, how to rough up 15-year-old girls, and how to belly shoot 60-year-old men. That's what they did. Brutal occupation. It was horribly demoralizing for many of these people. They didn't like doing this. And when they left the military, they didn't have a high regard for the military. So now they're back, but this time they're being called upon to do something that nobody in Israel wants to do. Go into Gaza. Why? Because in 2014, they went into Gaza and Hamas handed it to them. In 2006, they went up against Hezbollah and Hezbollah handed it to them. The Israeli army just isn't that good, and they're scared to death because Hamas is waiting for them. This is one giant ambush, and the Israeli intelligence is blind. They don't know where they are. They're going to have to go in there and probe, and as they probe, they're going to be blown up, ambushed, slaughtered, and they know this. The other thing that scares them is once they go into Gaza, they're going to be committed to that battle with the bulk of their reserves. And if at that time Hezbollah decides to open up a northern front, Israel's got nothing left. And even if they had something left, they can't beat Hezbollah. They can't beat Hezbollah. They know it. They've exercised it. Last year, Chariots of Fire. This year, Firm Hand. Those are the names of two major exercises where Israel tested its ability to fight a conflict against the Palestinians and Hamas in the West Bank and Hezbollah up north, and they can't do it. They don't have the resources to do it. Now you throw in Iran, and they're definitely screwed. So America is stepping in saying, hey, we're going to flex our muscle in an effort to deter Hezbollah and Iran from striking. It's not working. 2 aircraft carrier battle groups and an amphibious ready group with 2,000 Marines does not a war win. And we don't have anything behind that. We got nothing. And so if they come, so I think what's going to happen is that Biden is going to try and talk some common sense into Netanyahu and let him know the hard reality that, yeah, we flexed our muscles here, but if Hezbollah comes across the border, we'll bomb them, but we can't stop them. It's up to you. And if you can't stop them, you're screwed. And so you might want to think about coming up with a different solution than the one you're picking right now, a full-faced invasion. There's a lot of things go behind the scenes. The Israelis aren't as good as everybody thinks they are. They're very scared. Netanyahu's very weak. Remember how weak he was moving into this before the Hamas invasion. He was getting ready to collapse because of what he was doing with the judiciary and the reform, the rewriting of basic law. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis were in the streets. It's gotten worse for him because everybody's blaming. He was Mr. Security. I will protect you. I am